This is a production of PBS Charlotte.
The following episode of Charlotte Cooks is brought to you by Central Piedmont Community College and viewers like you. Thank you.
Hi there, and welcome to this edition of Charlotte Cooks. We're really glad you're here today. I have a fun show. It's all about popcorn, but it's not just about popcorn. It's about caramel corn. I don't know how many of you remember Cracker Jacks, that lovely little crunchy, peanutty. We always look for the peanuts in the bottom of the box. But today we're going to make it ourselves so you can have as many peanuts as you want. And if you didn't want to use peanuts, you can use almonds. But I'm going to show you, first off, how to pop popcorn. If we're not going to put it in a microwave, we're not going to do anything like that. We're going to use a big pot, great big pot, okay? A big pot with a nice big lid. First thing you're going to do is you're going to get your pot hot, and popcorn pops at about 400 degrees, so we need to get our pot hot, okay? So I'm going to put a little bit of oil in the pot, just enough to cover the bottom, not much. Some people like to put a little bit of butter in there, but you don't have to. We're going to put plenty of butter in our coating, so we don't need to put that in there. So we're going to take a couple of kernels of corn. I'm going to put one inside the pot. This is going to be my watchdog, so to speak. It's going to signal me when it's hot enough. We need to get inside of this pot to be about 400 degrees in order for that popcorn to pop, okay? Your popcorn needs to be fresh. It needs to be about 14% moisture, and they don't tell you any of this on the package, but in order for popcorn to pop, it needs to have 14% moisture inside of it, because what happens when that corn is sitting in the pot, it heats up, and the moisture inside of that kernel turns into steam, and then it builds up pressure and turns that whole little kernel of corn inside out, and that's what makes popcorn. They have actually found popcorn in the Bat Cave in New Mexico that is 5,600 years old, and they have found 1,000-year-old popcorn kernels in Utah that still pop. I think that's insane, but nonetheless. There we go, we got a pop. So I'm going to grab that out, because you don't want that to burn. Next, put all of your popcorn in there, put your lid on tight, and you're going to get ready to shake it, okay? We're going to shake it up just a little bit just to make sure that it's not going to stick on the bottom. And once that's done, all we are going to do is wait for it to pop. When you hear the popping slow down, turn off your heat and push the popcorn aside and let it either cool down, which we need it cool down for our recipe today, or you can go ahead and serve it with butter and cheese and all kinds of lovely stuff on it, just because that's really good that way. I like to put Parmesan cheese on my regular popcorn. Have you ever been to the grocery store and bought yourself a wedge of cheese? Well, I'm going to show you the proper way of cutting a wedge of cheese, because cheese ripens differently from the edge to the middle. I'm going to show you this beautiful hunk of Fontina cheese. Fontina cheese is a nice soft cheese. But what happens when people get a hunk of cheese like this, they usually don't know how to cut it. And I'm going to shudder when I show you this. They usually cut the tip off. Well, one of the rules for cutting cheese is never, ever, ever cut the point off your cheese. Whenever you're cutting cheese, you always want to create another point. And why is that? The point of that is the cheese ripens from the center to the edge. There's a totally different level of ripeness from the edge and to the center. And if you were to take cheese and serve someone just like this hunk from the back, all you're going to be getting is that ripeness of that hunk from the back, not that wonderful, delicate center of the cheese. This being Fontina, it's not going to show you that change so much. But what I want to show you here, too, is Parmesan. You can get a nice hunk of Parmesan. Typically, you'll buy this stuff in the store, and it's already shredded for you. But if you buy a nice big hunk, you can do some really wonderful things with it. This is a cheese plane. A cheese plane is something that will take a nice thin wedge off your cheese, but once again, you're not going to go up and down like this. You're going to take it from the center all the way to the end, because then you get the full flavor of the delicate cheese from the center and the fully ripened cheese all the way at the edge. And that's how you're going to do this. Now, when you get a big old wedge like this that's really heavy, we're going to use something called a cheese knife. A cheese knife is a knife that has 2 handles on it. It's really kind of weird because a regular knife just has 1 handle, right? So the way you would do this is you would put this down on your cheese and you would rock it back and forth, just like this. Now this Parmesan is a very hard cheese. I'm going to move it so I can get my muscles in there, like I have muscles. Back and forth just like this. And you can see, once again, we have the full flavor from the edge to the center. We have a new point on our cheese so that the next person coming along is going to have a point on their cheese too. Now, I want to show you the blue cheese. Blue cheese is really, really very unique, and that is a beautiful white creamy cheese that's made usually in a wheel. And you could see where there's holes in the top, and you could see these lines in the center. This is where, when the cheese was put in a mold, it was inoculated with the blue mold, and they pulled needles in there and they pull the needles back out. You can see the needle marks in here, and they leave behind the blue mold that creates the blue cheese. Once again, when you cut this, you don't want to cut it so that you're just getting the tip. You want to cut it so you're getting everything from the edge to the center. So you can cut it like this, and I think the best way to cut this is like this, so you get top and bottom and center and edge. Look at that gorgeous blue cheese. It's perfect now to take it and crumble, put it in any recipe that you want to use. That's my tip for today on how to cut cheese. Cut the points so that you always have a point. Never cut the point off your cheese. Now that our popcorn's popping, we got to keep an eye on it so it doesn't burn. So we're going to watch it, and when it slows down, we're just going to turn the heat off, okay? Yep, there we go. It's slowing down, so I'm going to turn the heat off. I'm going to leave the lid on because that's going to help all those last little kernels that end up in the bottom of the bag to help them pop a little. So I've got some I've already popped here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and put this into another large bowl. This is the important part about doing this, is to make sure you have a bowl large enough that when you have your sugar syrup and you're tossing your caramel corn and your stuff all together, you're not going to be restrained by having a too small a bowl, because you really got to pop this stuff, okay? So you're going to take this, you're going to put this in here. You want to leave any unpopped kernels behind. You don't want it in your caramel corn. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to start our syrup for our caramel corn. We're going to use 4 ounces of butter, and we're going to get this melted. I'm going to turn the heat on. And we're going to get it to where it is medium-high, because we don't want to burn our butter. I'm going to put our butter in there, get our butter melted. Once our butter is melted, we're going to add 2 cups of brown sugar. You can use light brown sugar, which is what I have here. You can also use dark brown sugar, which will give you a little bit darker caramel. And you can also use half brown sugar and half regular granulated sugar if you wanted to, okay? So once this butter gets all melted, we're going to add our sugar and get our sugar melted. And the other thing that we're going to, while this is melting here, I'm going to add my corn syrup. You need to add a little bit of corn syrup to this, about a 1/4 cup of corn syrup. And that 1/4 cup of corn syrup is going to help keep the sugar from crystallizing. All right? Can you leave it out? Yeah, I guess you could. But when you're doing this, you want to make sure that you're going to be using a regular non-high fructose corn syrup, okay? So you can find those in the grocery. They're usually labeled non-high fructose corn syrup. All right, my butter's melted. I'm going to add my sugar. And I get that all boiling. Now, when you do this, folks, the trick here is to get this up to 250 degrees, okay? So stir in your sugar and your butter, your corn syrup. Get it all going. It's going to come to a boil. You do have to be really careful here, folks, because we're dealing with a sugar syrup and it's 250 degrees. It's going to burn you if you get it on your skin, which is one of the reasons we like to put it in a large bowl, and we're going to use some nice long-handled spatulas to stir this up with. So the big thing I was telling you about earlier about the nuts and the things in the caramel corn, we're going to use peanuts. You can use, what I've got here is some salted party peanuts. You can put those in. If you wanted to use the ones with the red skins on them, by all means use those. I'm also going to be using some almonds. I really like the almonds and the peanut combination. If you had peanut allergies, you can leave peanuts out. You can really literally use any nut that you wanted to in this. You could use macadamia nuts, macadamia nut caramel corn. Pecans fresh from the field would be really, really nice in here too. So As it bubbles and boils, you want to give it a little stir, and you want to check the temperature once it starts coming to a boil, because we are looking for 250 degrees. And sometimes that happens quickly, and you want to know how far off it is from that temperature. So what I do, especially when you're using a pot like this, sometimes when you put your thermometer in there, it's not going to be deep enough. So tilt your pot up and put all the liquid to one side and stick your thermometer in there. And right now we're going up to 204, 5. It's happening pretty quickly, so it doesn't take very long, okay? So put that back down. We're going to just let it go for another couple minutes while we watch this caramel actually shape and form. Okay, there we go, 250 degrees. Remember, this is going to be hot. You're going to take this mixture, look at that hot syrup. You're going to pour it all over. Put your pot in the sink. Remember, that pot is really, really hot, as is all of this syrup here. So now here's the trick, folks. Stirring this up in a bowl. Number one, so you don't get burned. But you want to coat this all the way. So keep stirring it, and stirring it, and stirring it until it gets completely coated, okay? The thing about caramel corn, when you put it in the oven, we're going to put it in a 250-degree oven for about an hour. And what that does is it dries the moisture out, and it gives you that lovely, lovely, lovely crunchy candy coating all over your popcorn, okay? Does it have to be completely coated? No, but you want to keep stirring it so that you get as much of a distribution of that sugar syrup all over your popcorn. And you can see too how you can make the sugar syrup stick some of the nuts to the popcorn clusters. This is pretty good. This is the stage you want it to get to, okay? You can see how it's still a little bit, you can feel the heat coming off of it, but you can see how it's nice and the nuts are sticking to the popcorn. That's what you want. You want the clusters. We're going to take a sheet pan. You're going to line it with parchment paper, and then you're going to give it a really good spray with a pan spray. You can use butter on this if you wanted to, but this is just really easy, and it's just a nice amount of oil. And then you're going to take this and you're going to spread it out. Now, usually this batch will take about 2 of these half-size sheet pans. Make sure you get your nuts distributed to both sides. You're going to take this and you're going to spread it out on your sheet pan, and you're going to try to break it up so you don't have these giant clusters. And be careful about touching these things because they are going to be hot, okay? And I don't want you to get burned. Here we go. So now you want to give it a little bit of room between them. You don't want to pack this all into this sheet pan tight. You just want to spread it around and break it up with your edge of your spatula. I don't use a spoon or a knife for this because you don't want to break your popcorn. I find the soft spatulas are perfect for this. Then you take this and you put it in a 250-degree oven for about 2 hours. That's all there is to making caramel corn. But I have another one I'm going to show you too. This is a little bit easier, and it requires no oven time. It's a honey almond popcorn ball. So you want to take some honey, and I'm going to use a nice clean spatula. You want to get your honey to a boil. So we're going to turn the stove on. I like medium-high heat for this because honey, you don't want to superheat your honey. Getting it to a boil is really all you really need. You can use local honey. Really be good for you. Has health benefits, local honey does. Now if you want to add a little dimension of flavor, you can also add some maple syrup. Now I think this is an awesome, awesome combination, honey and maple syrup. Now when this honey and maple syrup comes to a boil, we're going to add some ground almond butter. Some chunky almond butter. I say ground because it's just basically almonds that have been ground up into a paste just like you would do peanut butter. Okay, so we're going to get this to a boil, but while we're waiting for this to get to a boil, we are going to do the next popcorn bowl. We have popcorn in here, and I'm also going to show you down here underneath, we've got some slivered almonds we put in here, okay? We've got slivered almonds, they're in the bottom, And then we're also going to put a few more of the whole almonds in there because it's a honey almond popcorn ball. We want to have a variety of almonds. So just sprinkle them in over the top, just like we did with the caramel corn, okay? Now I've got my honey and maple syrup boiling. I'm going to add my almond butter. And guys, do be careful because once again, we do have hot boiling sugar here, and it's not something you want to get on your skin because that's going to be one of the worst burns you're ever going to have. One of the things you can do when you're working with sugar, and a lot of times when you work with sugar, you usually have a little bowl of ice water or something next to you. So if you get the sugar on you, you just drop your hand in the ice water. It really helps to alleviate the burn because you don't want to pull the sugar off your skin when it's hot. That's, to me, it's just not what you want to do. All right, so stir this in. Get this nice and mixed in. Into this, we're going to add some vanilla. And stir my vanilla in here. Now, some places will ask you to add vanilla before you get things boiling, and I usually find that that dissipates the vanilla flavor because vanilla is basically made with basically an alcohol and vanilla beans, and the alcohol will evaporate anyway, but also the vanilla flavor, being quite delicate, would also evaporate. I'm going to add a little bit of cinnamon to this too, just to give it a little bit of flavor, and you'll add this to your syrup instead of adding it to your popcorn. Now, you can lightly salt your popcorn as well. You don't have to, but you can. Anytime I use vanilla, I like to use salt with it because to me, it just helps bring all of that flavor together. Okay, now I'm going to stir this over my popcorn. It's a little funky looking, but that's okay. It's supposed to be. Once again, take your spatula and stir it up. What did I tell you before about this stuff being hot and sugar burns? Now I'm going to tell you to put your hands in it, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to just let this cool down a few minutes. Make sure everything is nice and coated. And I'm going to get another pan ready because I don't want to put my hands in this right this second. So in order to cool this down quickly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this up to the sides of the bowl. Notice the size of the bowl I'm working with, guys. Make sure you get yourselves a nice big bowl to work with. You'll be happy. Could it be a plastic bowl? Yes. Could it be a glass bowl? Yes. What does it have to be? Big. All right. All right. Next, what we're going to do is look at what we can do with our popcorn balls. When you make your popcorn balls, you want to take them and you want to wrap each one individually in cellophane because otherwise, if you just put them in a bag and they're all together, they're all going to you got a popcorn block. Okay, we don't really want popcorn blocks, but we want popcorn balls. These are really great for kids' treats. If you're going to a school and you have to take a treat, these things are good. If you're going to school, I would suggest using almonds and not peanuts. But nonetheless, there are a lot of fun ways to do this. Let me show you how to make those balls. What you're going to do now, you're going to take your hands. You're either going to wet them with water, or you can spray them with oil so they don't get sticky. Now, your hands need to be clean, obviously, and just take these things, or you could use a scoop to measure it out if you wanted to. You're just going to take it, and you're going to mush it all together and smash it together until it comes together like a ball. Nice big ball, okay? And then when you're done, you squeeze it nice and tight, and you should have a popcorn ball. Isn't that neat? A popcorn ball. Your hands are going to get sticky. You're going to have to wash your hands quite a bit. But nonetheless, popcorn balls. Now you're going to take this and you're going to wrap it in cellophane like the others are. And then you're going to put curly ribbon on it, and then you can put it in little bags and serve it to anybody you want to. Good treats for people who come knocking at your door. Good treats for holidays. Good treats, just good treats, good treats. Now I'm going to pull that caramel corn out of the oven. Let's take a look at it. Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, look. Look at this. It's all nice. And you know what's kind of fun when it comes out of a 200-degree oven? It's just slightly warm. It's kind of like having warm toasted nuts. Oh, yummy. So what are we going to do with this? Eat it. You can take it and you can put it into containers. Sorry. It's too delicious. If you're having a party, you can fill it up. You can find these containers at stores around town, even in the grocery store. They have these containers. Get off the edge. There we go. Fill them up. Serve them up. When you're doing your popcorn balls, like I said, put them on a platter. Make them look festive, make them look pretty. Popcorn balls. There we go. You can take your caramel corn and you could put it into multiple containers because these multiple containers are going to disappear quickly. Let's go down to the other room where I can show you how to season your popcorn with other things besides salt and butter. I'm going to tell you a couple facts right now. The Europeans love to eat their popcorn in a bowl with milk and sugar. Now here we can take that even a little step further and season it with cinnamon sugar. So it will be just like a very popular breakfast cereal. In fact, you know, the state of Illinois is the popcorn state. Nebraska grows the most popcorn in the whole entire world, but Illinois loves to eat popcorn, and they'll eat it any way they can. And so using it as a breakfast cereal is a really nice way of doing it. It's a great way of using your old stale popcorn. If you didn't want to use your old stale popcorn as a breakfast cereal, you can always take it and you can season it with other spices as well. You can use plain old cinnamon sugar. You can also go and find lovely, lovely seasoning combinations in your spice aisle. Something like a Georgia peach spice, which has lemon and cinnamon and vanilla and clove and allspice. It's just a wonderful, wonderful aroma and a good seasoning on your popcorn. If you wanted to go away from the sweet end, you can go into using things like granulated onion, which is my favorite. I love using granulated onion, a little bit on the top, and a little bit of granulated garlic, a little bit of that on the top too. Now don't go too heavy on these because they are going to really be strong in their flavor. And you could take this and eat it just like this. You can also take it and add a little bit of shredded Parmesan cheese. And while the popcorn is hot, sometimes that cheese will melt and it'll get all nice on the top of that popcorn. If you wanted to go even a little bit further, you can use something like curry powder. You can use blackened seasonings. You can look in your grocery aisle and find all kinds of non-salt seasonings that you can just take and open the package and sprinkle it directly over the popcorn. It's really a wonderful way of doing it. Well, I told you that the Europeans like to eat their popcorn sweet or as a cereal. The Americans like to eat their popcorn with salt and butter, a lot of cheese on it sometimes. The Japanese eat their popcorn, very weird, with seaweed and shrimp on top. If you wanted to try that, you could go to the Oriental stores and find some spice seasonings that have shrimp and seaweed and sesame and all those things already mixed into it. And all you do then is just take that and sprinkle it over your popcorn. Now here's something else that you can do. You can take fresh herbs. In fact, I'm going to bring my cheese popcorn back over here because this is really a nice way of using the fresh herbs. Something like fresh thyme. Just take it and sprinkle some of these leaves over the top. This is a wonderful way of adding flavor. Thyme is one of my absolute favorite herbs. I just love thyme. I love the way it smells. I love the way it feels. And the little leaves are so tiny. Don't worry about picking each little leaf off one at a time. You saw how I was doing this here. I'm taking the stalk of the thyme and I'm holding it by the tip because the tip is very tender, and I'm running my finger down to get all of those little leaves off. And then I'm just taking and sprinkling it right over my popcorn. And this is all you need to do to season it. Something else you need to think about. What are those little kernels that are on the bottom of the bowl called? They're called old maids or spinsters. And very few of them, less than 10%, are in quality popcorn. So you should get a good amount of your corn popping. There's about 1,600 kernels of popcorn in 1 cup. 2 tablespoons of popcorn will actually create 1 whole quart. In order to get 1 full serving of whole grains from popcorn, which popcorn is considered a whole grain, you need to eat 3 full cups of it. That's enough for dinner. If you were to put some cheese on top of here, corn and cheese combined make a perfect protein. So if you're thinking you don't want a lot for dinner, just a bowl of popcorn will do, throw some cheese on there to make sure you get your extra protein. Most of the nutrition in the popcorn is not in this lovely white fluffy piece. It's in the hull itself. Popcorn has more iron in it than eggs and roast beef. It only has 31 calories per cup. So what are you waiting for? There's no reason that you can't have popcorn every single day. So there you have it, folks. A really simple treat. I highly recommend if you make a large batch, eat what you want and then get it out of the house because you will eat the whole thing and then you'll have all those calories to contend with. It's a fun thing to share, so please enjoy the popcorn. Remember, popcorn, fresh, cook it on the stovetop, not in the microwave. I hope you try this. You'll have a good time with it, and it's delicious, it's addictive. You can find this recipe and other recipes on our website at pbscharlotte.org, or you can email me at Pamela, Pamela.Roberts, Roberts, @cpcc.edu. Thank you. I hope you enjoy the popcorn. I hope you enjoy caramel corn, and I hope you enjoy popcorn balls. Catch you next time on Charlotte Cooks. Thanks for watching.
A production of PBS Charlotte.